Okay, in this video, we're going to factor polynomials where the coefficient in the first term is not 1. So by that we mean that this number here is not 1. If we have ax squared plus bx plus c, this a is not 1. These get a lot more difficult because it makes a lot more choices for us. Well, we know when we have something like this, we're going to have something times something. We know we're going to have x here, and we're going to have x here. Before we knew we were just going to add or subtract something here and add or subtract something here, but now we also have something we can put in here, okay? Because it's not just going to be 1 times 1 here, okay? It's going to be something that when these two are multiplied together here, we're going to get up with 10x. So, well, our choice is there for those two things to be multiplied together and get 10x. We know that it could be 1 in 10, or it could be 2 in 5. But then we also have this other problem here that we always had before of these two things multiplied together going to have to equal 6, so their product is going to need to be 6. So we always have that product of 6. And we also know that this middle term here needs to be negative 19. But here it has this input from, it could be this and this and this and this. It depends on this term also, and not just these terms. So we know on this here, we know this could be, so over here it could be 1 or 6 or 2 or 3. So that's for these terms here. And we also know that this is a plus sign here, but this is a negative sign here. So we know that actually these two things are both going to be negative, because that's the only way we're going to get positive here and a negative here. So now we're looking at things that might fit here, and we're just going to try some things and see what they do. I mean, we could try something like if I had, let's say I had 10x here, and that would make this 1x, and then 1 and 6. So that's a possibility, because here I would get my 10x, here I would get my 6, but here I would get minus 1x, minus 60x. So minus 61x. Well, that's no good. So let's try something else. So we go here, and let's try, let's say if we had a 5x here minus 3, so that's a possibility. And let's say we had 2x minus 2, because those are a possibility, because we would have, again, 10x, and we would have plus 6. And here we would have negative 6x and a negative 10x. We'd have negative 16x. Closer, but not what we want. Maybe if we just switch things around a little bit, maybe if we went here and we went 2x minus 3 and 5x minus 2. Let's see if this one will work. So we, as before, we get, I'll change the color here. Before we get 2 times 5 is 10x. Negative 3 times negative 2 is 6. which we want, and then we get negative 15x minus 4x, that's minus 19x. That's what we want. So that gives us exactly what we want. And so that's our answer right here. So this is using what we might call a guess and check method. Okay? I'm going to do the same one now, but I'm going to use a different method, which takes a lot of the guessing out of it. And we're going to call this the grouping method. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm just going to select a whole new file here, and I won't save this. And so our equation again, or our expression was 10x squared minus 19 plus 6. Now, this method is, oh, this is x here, of course. This method is basically what we're trying to do is figure out what this middle term is going to be. So we're going to be, again, we want something times something, x there, but we want to figure out what this middle term is going to be here when we, FOIL it here. And how we do this is this way. First of all, we want to make sure a up here is not negative. If this were to be negative, then you would multiply the whole thing through by -1 to make it positive. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at something where the product of a, so this is a, right, and c, if we have in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where ac needs to equal, where the product ac, so we want something where we have the product of a and c, and so here's that 10 times 6, or 60. So we want something, two numbers where the product is 60, and the sum is this middle term here, this negative 19. So sum, not sum, I'm sorry, the b term here is negative 19. So I'm just going to cross this out. I'm going to say the b term is negative 19. So let me reiterate that. We want something where the product of a and c is equal to 60. And so two numbers, and where the b term here is going to be equal to negative 19. Well, let's look at some of the products, how we get to 60. We could do 1 and 60. We could do 2 and 30. We could do 3 and 20. We could do 4 and 15. We could do 5 and 12. Or we could do 6 and 10. Now on this one, both of these are going to be, they could be negative. So actually, if we took, where we're going to get the sum of these two as negative 19, which is the b term, the sum, if I take negative 4 and negative 15, that gives me negative 19. So that's what I want. Now, let me show you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to go 10x squared. And then what I'm going to do is take this number here. And so I'm going to go minus 4x. And then I'm going to go minus 15x. Plus 6. So all I've done is pick these middle terms here so that I get negative 19x, but I'm picking them so that they're going to factor well. So look at this now. So if we go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at this expression right here. we're going to get the GCF of 10 and negative 4. So the GCF of 10x squared and negative 4x is 2x. So we're going to factor out a 2x. And then that's 2x. And then to get back to that, we're going to go 5x minus 2. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to say minus, and we're going to factor out whatever we can of 15x and 6. So what's the GCF? The GCF of those two must be 3. So we factor out 3, and then we get 5x minus 2. So let me change back here. Minus 2. It's minus because a negative 3 times a negative 2 is a positive 6. Well, now once we get this, if you look at this expression and this expression, we can now factor that out. So now we have 5x minus 2. We're factoring that out times 2x minus 3. And almost magically, that's our answer, because we can go ahead and check that now. So this should be our answer. I'll pick another color here to check it. So we get 10x squared. We get 6 over here. And then for the middle terms, we get minus 2, negative 2 times 2x is a negative 4x, plus a negative 15x, that's negative 19x. And we now have that checked and solved. So this is called factoring with grouping. And it's sort of a tricky little thing that's a little hard to understand at first, but once you get it, it avoids the guessing and checking that we have to do in the other method.